Hello and welcome to Joyspring Online Festival. Today we have here Sabrina Nori and Heather and John Natoli, and they're going to be sharing with us a little bit about the beauty of creating family circles. And this will be a discussion as an extension of the platform they're creating for MyCorr Life. At mycorrlife.com, you'll see all the information in the presentation information and below this video. So without further ado, I welcome MyCorr Life.
Hello.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Hello.
Thank you. Would you like to just briefly introduce yourselves or say anything about MyCorr Life and how this came to be?
Yes. So I'm Heather Natoli. I'm a homeschooling mom, and I've been a practicing homeopath for 10 years and am now a licensed massage therapist. And I really love gathering with our family and just keeping everything super intentional and living a conscious lifestyle with our children and including them in a lot of our own personal growth and development as a family. So for me, that was one of my big yeses to joining into MyCorr Life and starting to create these family circle guides to help share that wisdom with everyone else.
Thank you.
I'm John. I'm Heather's husband, and just part of our family is, having a rhythm and getting together and making sure everybody's included together. We were finding that, it seems today's conventional wisdom is when you need fulfillment, you go separately from your family and you go to a class or you go do something by yourself. And we felt like we should be doing things together and getting our fulfillment as a unit. And so that's what prompted us to create guides for other families to do that as well.
And I'm Sabrina Nori, and Heather and John are dear friends of mine and my family's. And we are also a homeschooling family. We've actually been unschooling for almost the past decade now. And we also are world schoolers. So we have been location independent for a while, but when we were here living close by in proximity and we had a home base, we would join in with Heather and John, and our families would come together in intentional community gatherings almost on a weekly basis. And it was such a beautiful, enriching experience, and also mirrored what I was doing in my own experience with creating women's circles and how we would create these sacred experiences together with women and also with the young daughters in our lives. And so we all were, seeking this continued connection and how we could create and hold sacred experiences together as families, no matter what, where we're living and how that's looking. And so as we talk about intentional living and intentional education at your beautiful retreat, it feels only right to also talk about, all of the intentionality that you can bring to that, even with the family approach as well.
Gorgeous. I love it. And just to let viewers know, you guys are in quarantine together since you'd been location independent and then came back when quarantine restrictions were imposed. And so you kind of have your own built-in family circle, intentional family circle right there. And just for viewers who don't know, would you like to explain what is a family circle?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start down here.
Yeah. So the family circles are a moment where you can just come together with your family and have really deep and rich discussions. So MyCorr Life is actually spelled M-Y-C-O-R-R, life, and it's short for also mycorrhizal, which is a mycorrhizal network. Is this underground system, root network from different plants like trees and the fungi and everything, and it works together in this beautiful community, and we like to mirror that with our lifestyle, and just look at and explore all the ways that different topics can kind of be, like the law of mirrors with the permaculture around us, all of the systems that we see in nature. So with our family circle guides, it's a time to come together and to do these rituals and have these moments of deep connection where we're discussing, what is happening in nature and how we can experience that in our lives, and what, how we can just grow and be better humans by, living as nature. Right. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I love that, right? The idea that in nature we see that nothing is completely isolated. Growth supports growth. And so I think that concept really resonated with me, that when I see that everywhere, that we are part of the natural world, right? When we are growing, so are the others around us. And when someone else is growing, so are we. And that's completely symbiotic. So I thought that was a really powerful connection. But I love the idea of the family circle as well, as a time where you are intentionally carving out something that you hold value for. So if that is connection as a family, and there may be many ways in which families are doing this right now. So they might be getting together at certain points of the day where everyone's all around a meal, right, or a table, or other kinds of rhythms to their days that are beautiful, and that's wonderful. And I think what we've experienced with family circles as well is that this is a time to really carve out what can feel a bit magical, that you are creating something that becomes these family traditions in a way that don't have to be around a holiday, or something that we might associate with really intentionally preparing for, or enjoying together, that there can be those special moments that we come together and we can talk a bit deeper and play together, and have that be thoughtful in regards to nature and ourselves and our own growth.
John, did you have anything to add to?
Yeah, I really think that the magic of it is kind of the intentionality of what we bring to it. And we tend to do it weekly. We sometimes do it only monthly. It depends on what the rhythm is with the family. But we find that in the in-between, when you're doing it consistently, the whole family is just bursting with things that they want to share with each other, because that it's coming. And so we see the kids are just mindful about it, and when something happens in their life, they're noticing it much more because they're ready to share that during the next family circle. And so it's this really great time to bring the meaningful experiences that you're having in your life all the time, whether it's a poem that you read, or an experience that you had, or a bird that you saw, or an interaction that you had with another person, and that there's this space that exists on a rhythm consistently, that you're going to be able to bring that and share that with people who love you. And there are certain rituals around that which facilitate it. It's things like the family mantra, things like getting up and moving together, and, whether it's dancing or singing or some kind of craft together, it all serves to sort of bring that experience out of you and create a comfortable space where you look forward to sharing with other people and building those connections in an intentional way.
So beautiful. I can see the value in this, and I love, just to reflect back, also I love how this mirrors the natural ecology, right? The natural systems, and how you and so many people right now really more and more are realizing the importance of that connection, how deeply important it is for sustaining survival on the planet, and with quality of life that is nourishing life, not destroying it. And I also find it striking as an observer in this little collective right here that you, John, as a man, you know, it's atypical, I would say, to be so in tune with these qualities, these intentional rituals. And I'm just really curious about how you nurtured that, where this came from in your life, and not only just because I'm curious, but for other men to hear you talk about this would be really healing and an invitation to go there into this, what I see as really embracing that kind of creation, that feminine energy that brings things into balance in life, I think. So I feel.
I'm glad that you asked. It's been, I mean, frankly, I've been really inspired by Heather. She's sort of conceptualized MyCorr from the beginning to be something that is inclusive of everybody in the family. And of course, you know, being a couple and being together for a long time, knowing that we have these sides of ourselves and of each other that are worth sharing. And so for me, you know, I don't really look at it as even like feminine or masculine energy. I just look at it as being the fullest expression of yourself. And I think that there's so much that men have to share and have to bring to the table, especially within a family context, that unfortunately gets sort of glossed over in most of our daily life. And it's really nobody's fault. It's just sort of a pattern that we've fallen into as a society, that men kind of think that there's something about masculinity where you're reserved and you hold things back, and you don't necessarily share these sort of meaningful moments that you've experienced. And it just doesn't have to be that way. It's just once you start sharing and sort of opening up and being a part of this kind of circle, it just comes very naturally, because it is natural. You know, the way that we generally behave now is not natural. And you can feel it when you change it. And, you know, for me, it's not always easy to kind of open up and share something that, you know, that I've experienced that one might be kind of surprised to hear a man say or speak about. But the more you do it, the more gratifying it is. And you just become closer with your family, you become closer with your friends. I'll say, you know, as a final note on that topic, that one of the best pieces of advice I ever got from anybody was also one of the simplest pieces of advice. And it was from a male mentor that I had while I was in college, who said, if you want people to share something about themselves with you, the first thing you should do is share something about yourself. And it's just so simple and so obvious, but it's where a lot of us get short-circuited and we miss out on meaningful connections.
So beautiful and profound. Thank you for sharing. I wonder if any of you want to add any other insights not mentioned about what is valuable about coming into circle like this. Like, how have your families benefited from these circles in ways that you haven't already shared?
Yeah, there's so much value in coming together in the circles, especially like John was saying, for having that male presence, having, you know, both the parents, like adds to the dynamic of the family, and it adds to the dynamic of these circles, because especially for the children, it's so important for children to hear the storytelling, to hear the past experiences of parents. And I feel like our society, at least for myself growing up, there wasn't a lot of that sharing because they didn't want to, you know, scare the children. They didn't want to, you know, make them, you know, they were so reserved with trying not to form their children's opinions that it almost left it only open to what they were seeing. And sometimes that's not a complete story, right? So hearing the, you know, what the father is going through, a feeling, you know, in our case, it's, not wanting to be in the working position and wanting to be living life and enjoying the at-home experience. And I feel like a lot of men are facing that right now, where they don't want to be in this like stereotype where they're just the at-home man. They don't want to be working. They want to be at home, right? They want to be enjoying these experiences. They want to be sharing that quality with the mothers. And I feel like the value for us has been really being able to take a moment, take that day to just have that, where we're both, the at-home parent. We're both sharing in these spaces. So that for us has been really, really, really beautiful, and seeing how the kids are thriving from having the conversations and having the experiences and the way that their minds are going with it. Right. I feel like.
Yeah. We have led just in the past, week and a half, we had a family circle as well as a new moon circle that we held, and just as an observer, while we were certainly participating and feeling our way through that, even as an observer, watching the way in which our children were processing and, in the moment. I'm thinking about our daughters at one point were journaling, and what they were sharing with us from the words we were saying were profound. They were not just, oh, that's sweet, watching what your thoughts are. It was, that is wisdom that you just spoke, that I'm now going to carry with me. And we are each other's sources of wisdom constantly. And so it creates an opportunity for that just on a regular basis, in a way that is just an invitation to go there, right? Because we can maybe not go there and not experience these things and have still, beautiful childhoods and beautiful relationships. But when the door opens to maybe experience something on a deeper level, and that opportunity is there regularly, it's incredible to see, and in some ways surprising, but not surprising to see that we all kind of exist on the spectrum of our kids get to see us in a playful light, and we get to see our kids go to these depths of self-reflection and understanding of the world. And so it's not just that adults can go can become introspective and kids play, that we constantly on a human level live on the spectrum. So I think that one of the beautiful things is that this allows, creating these sacred spaces allows for us to go into both ends of the spectrum ourselves. One other thing that I want to just chime in on, for families who maybe are listening and saying, oh, that's really great, John's tuned in, my partner is not, now what? Does that mean we can't start? And so I think that one thing that I would want to speak to is just the idea that that wherever your family is at, if this is something that appeals to you, you can just start where you're at. And it need not be that everyone is on the same page. It might just mean that parts of your family are curious and in different ways. So maybe a partner is curious about how it goes for you, but isn't going to sit in on the circle right to start, but might want to hear about it. And that might be part of their own journey of growth, whereas you might be ready to just dive right in. The same thing might happen with some of your children, that they're at different places of curiosity about it. And so I think that's all part of a beautiful journey of introspection, which is part of what comes out of these moments.
You bring up something that makes me think of a few scenarios, and I'm curious how you would address this. So beautiful how you paint this picture of these rhythms, right? And as you say, some families, some people will think, I'm going to make some me time and do this or go attend this women's circle. And, now we know there's so many beautiful offerings and spaces to take that kind of ritual, intentional time for yourself. But bringing it into the family, I can think of 2 or 3 different scenarios, like one like you just said, but the time, the reality of time, and the endless list of to-dos, right? And you know, it really calls for us to somehow make a practice of pausing and just taking the space to do this. But how, you know, and building a new habit of doing that. How, where does someone begin addressing it on those practical kind of like deep-rooted levels, ingrained levels of just having in your whole being and body, like, I can't stop this, I gotta push through and get this work done. And you know, and then the other thing that came to mind is then dealing with all the feelings of unmet expectations, right? If one person is like, oh, let's do this, and everybody's like, yeah, okay, or, you know, various different degrees of enthusiasm, and then comes the time and it kind of disintegrates, and then really disintegrates because it blows up with all the feelings, and feeling that, you know, maybe the kids feel bad that they don't feel like it right now, and you don't want to force them, but you feel disappointed, or you're stressed and it kind of got away from you and you kind of want to do this and that at the same, you know, all these different, you know, real life things that interfere with it being such a, you know, beautiful, peaceful, you know, invitation that is met and actualized and manifested. So I'm wondering, I would love to hear your response to that, how you would talk to someone about that.
We've got lots of thoughts on that.
Yeah, we've been thinking a lot about that. We've actually been discussing on how we're going to weave some of those conversations into like our starter pack of how to get going with these conversations and these family circles, because there's going to be so many moments like that, right? And maybe it's just that you take 10 minutes with your family, you know, while you guys are sitting down at dinner or getting ready to go out somewhere, and you're like, oh, I wanted to start this family circle, but we just don't have the time, so I'm going to carve it into this little 5 minutes where I can just bring up some of these tidbits that I read through the guide and start with those conversations, and just start dropping the ideas of, well, would you guys like to, you know, try out this stomping and, you know, fun program that they put together. And even in our family guide, we are going to, you know, kind of prioritize the points that we feel are really important when you do start to sit down and carve out those circles. And the other stuff that can just be like an add-on, and something that if you guys are really building momentum and feeling like you've got it going and you want to keep reaching for more, that those are things that you can pull in. But this can be anything from, you know, 5 minutes to an hour on, you know, your down day, or a full day, you know, stretching out this guide to last a whole day once a week, which is what we would do when we gathered as like a few families in doing these rituals. We were, you know, spending the whole day, where we would get together in the morning, and then they wouldn't be, you know, leaving, and we wouldn't be wrapping up and closing our circle till after dinner. So being flexible is really, really, really important in hosting these, because it's like this practice of letting go and not having these big expectations of what you really want it to look like, because it's probably not going to happen, you know, especially the first few times that you do it. It's not going to be this like everything you've dreamed of, and just letting it go and seeing where it goes, and just allowing yourself to be organic with what's coming up. You know, our one daughter is like super resistant to anything that you say to do. She's like, well, maybe I don't want to do that, you know, but she will, you know, observe and sit and watch. And then she usually creeps in and starts getting into the fun of it after things loosen up and we've gotten our stuff going. And then she'll be like, I really enjoyed that. I was kind of bummed that I was not into it at the beginning. And that's like what we're going for, you know, that's just to get them in baby steps until they're really feeling comfortable and excited to be joining us.
Yeah, it's a practice. It's like a meditation practice or a fitness practice. I mean, it's work. It's not always super easy. It's not always very comfortable. you know, it's funny, like making the connection to nature and the way that we conceived of this. Our last circle, we spotted a beautiful place in our backyard. We have like a couple acres here, and we're looking at this spot. We're like, this just looks like such a beautiful place to sit and enjoy each other's company. And we sit down there, and by the end of it, we stood up and we had ticks on us. We had been scratched by thorns, and you know, you have to take both. And this is just a way of sharing that together. I mean, you're gonna come across that in every aspect of your life. It's never gonna fully meet your expectations, and to have a family and a community to share that experience with, and to focus on all the wonderful things that you got out of it, despite the thorns and the ticks, is really what it's all about. It's not meant to be, you know, this perfect thing. It can never be that, you know.
That's a beautiful analogy, a metaphor, or just absolutely to take that experience and the gift that comes back to another one of the values for doing this, is that the kids are then experiencing how to move through these meeting and not meeting expectations that they're going to come across in the world as adults too, and they're going to be able to really ride the waves, you know, whatever come what may, with much more equanimity as a result. Sabrina, did you want to share as well on that?
I mean, what you're saying is beautiful. This idea of modeling for our children, and what it's like to have an idea and want to set that into motion and to flow through that, because that creates an opportunity for our children to see us as constantly evolving and growing. And that's really empowering for our children to see that there's not just going to be this time in life where they've arrived and have it all together, right? So we're going to constantly be this work, well, I won't even put it work in progress. We're just humans, which means that we're always moving to what's happening around us and moving through life. And that is something that can be celebrated, especially when we're modeling that for our kids. They then internalize that and can say, how am I working through the different things that I want to breathe life into? And that might not go the way I want to. So I think on a deeper level, there's certainly that modeling. And from an intention on our part, we're just also really wanting to help empower families, and specifically parents, to, if this is something that connects to them, feeling like it's possible that they can begin this and take that first step. Because it certainly, I think about kind of the difference, to ride on the meditating analogy, the idea of a guided meditation, and I'm going to kind of now take the step and meditate even without the guide in my head. That we're kind of this middle ground of, we'll give you this recipe for a beautiful day, and you're going to take that recipe and make it work in your family. And so we want to also at the same time be empowering you to feel like you can take that step. You can take all of those ingredients and you can put them together in a way that's personalized and it's going to work for your family. And maybe it won't work, right? Maybe it won't work the way you thought it will. But how can you see the beauty in that? Where is that? Because if we see it as a one-time experience, then maybe not everything's going to happen in the exact way we want it to in that moment. But over the course of many experiences, that's how we begin to create new experiences from a series of experiences, right? So if we just think of it as one circle, opens up the door for maybe one thing, and like Heather said, that can even just be a moment in your day. That moment of intentionality then opens up the opportunity for you to see so many more moments of intentionality, and feeling empowered to do so allows you to step into those moments.
It seems so simple. I love how you really brought to light the point of, it's just kind of all-encompassing point that you're really normalizing the experience of nature, you know, that nature is constantly in flux and changeable and growing and a river may be flowing this way and then has to change its course unexpectedly around a branch that, you know, fell into it, or a tree or a rock. And I love that. I love the invitation that you guys are offering. And it does seem very simple and practical in the way that you're sharing this, and kind of I'm curious to hear more specifically how you would get a family started. What is the interaction that will happen if they come to you and want to begin, you know, getting advice about starting a family circle?
Yeah, the fun stuff.
Yeah, so basically what we're putting together now is a welcome packet. It's basically, this is sort of everything that you should be mindful of and think about when you're planning your first family circle and when you're thinking about doing it on an ongoing basis. And so it's things like, you know, how to sort of schedule it, how to think about the flow. A lot of the questions that we spoke about so far around, you know, just being kind of easy on yourself. It can just be a moment, or it can be a whole day. And sometimes a whole day is easier than a moment because you just leave it open and you let it flow naturally. And then it would include, as Sabrina was saying, sort of a recipe, or almost like an a la carte menu, where there are a couple of things that we recommend you do consistently to sort of open and close the circle and to make sure that you take a little time to get to the meat of it. And then other activities that you can do, or you can choose not to do, or you can do it on a different day. But kind of having a blueprint for how you can go through it. And that would be different from month to month. The activities might be different, and they'll be focusing on sort of different themes that your family can investigate. But they would all sort of center around, you know, having a component of movement, having a component of crafting together, of creating something together, having a chance to have that more deep conversation for those who want to participate in that, and just the time to sort of share the unique thing that your family is all about together.
So sweet, so beautiful. Thank you. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? Anybody?
I think another element of getting started is definitely just, you know, before you even look at the website, before you even like start on the family guides, is just setting the intention of like coming home, of, you know, returning to this space of family. Because for so many of us, we're like always searching for, you know, what we're going to do next to like propel ourselves forward and to get, you know, our next job, or, you know, like I'm totally at fault of doing these things and like looking for that women's circle and the yoga class and like wanting to have my own self-development. And then I'm looking for classes for the kids to get their, you know, like art class and like live out their lives to this full expression. Right. But just taking that moment to like invite yourself back into your home, of just setting the intention that you are going to be carving out time in your week to just be sitting and fully present with your family is so important. Mm-hmm. Because then when you have that intention, it's so much easier to say like, okay, Sunday, 11 o'clock in the morning, we're going to just like sit and have our family circle, right? And then it's carved out already. You already have like that on your to-do list, where then when you're in that moment, where for me, I'm like, oh, I have a to-do list. I like have my schedule all planned out already. Where am I going to fit that in? It's a lot easier when like that is really high on your list. You know, like that is your intention for the month, for the year, to just be coming home, to be back and fully present with your kids, because it goes so fast. right? And if we just keep pushing it off, it's, you know, if the kids are 12, when you're like, hey, look, we're going to start doing this weekly, you know, again for us, right? And it just happens really fast. So just the invitation to just come back inward and share these moments with your kids is super important.
Thank you. Thank you. Sabrina, did you have any final words on that?
I think what John and Heather have said is beautiful in terms of just beginning. And so I would say that if this is resonating with you and you're sitting with this idea and this is something that you're really looking forward to, we would love to hear from you. And Deanna will give you the information to the website where you can find, where you can, you know, join our mailing list. So, you know, once we're launched, and you can find more about what we're doing, but you can also connect with us and talk about where you're at and what you're hoping for, because we would love to chat with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that many families have found themselves during this quarantine needing to, you know, by default, come home and look at how we define that, you know, our experience at home. And so this may appeal to a lot of people who haven't maybe thought of this before, and as well as those who have and struggle to make a real rhythm out of it. So really great. Thank you. Thanks for being on this festival program. And with that, we will wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We're excited to see where everything goes.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.